Hi, I'm Dr. Boyce Watkins. Welcome to Financial Lovemaking, where we talk about love, life, money, and everything in between. I'm here with my buddy, partner, and co-host, Miss S. Tia Brown, Entertainment Director at Ebony Magazine. How you doing today, Tia?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing really well, and I'm sad though. I'm sad because my man Chris Rock, I mean the guy that I just respect so much,
Yeah,
he and his wife are getting a divorce after 19 years of marriage. I think it's kind of tragic. Don't
it
you?
is. Chris Rock is one of my favorite comedians. I always say Adam Sandler and Chris Rock, both the double consciousness. I got both as my top guys. And, you always want that happily ever after for folks. And it is sad. Chris and his wife, Malaak Compton-Rock, have been married for 19 years. They have two children, a daughter, Lola, who's 12, and Zara, who's 10. And, people kind of hoped that they would be one of those couples who just made it, right? He's almost 50, and it just seemed like it would be, a great happy ending. But unfortunately, the marriage has had trouble before. They filed about 6 years ago for divorce and they reconciled. So it's not shocking that they're separating. And then anyone who's a true Chris Rock fan knows that, he always talks in his stand-ups about how challenging it is to be married. And, they say that art imitates life, right? So he's talking about real stories. The biggest thing now is what happens to the money. They're saying that Chris Rock is estimated to be worth $70 million.
Mm.
70 million. And even he says in Real House Husbands of Hollywood, he's white people famous. So his money keeps coming. He has a lot of different types of projects. He has that movie Top Five that's out now, and it got a great critical review. It was critically acclaimed, but it didn't do that phenomenally well in the box office. But Chris Rock has always had a steady body of work, so we know that his income stream is strong.
Well, I've always loved Chris Rock since he played Pookie on New Jack City. Remember, it be calling me, man. It be calling me. I think that it's unfortunate that we kind of keep having to learn that that love and marriage is not an Al Green song. Let's stay together. We kind of I think we oversimplify the realities of marriage. And there's an article on Financial Juneteenth that people should look up, where basically, or we talk about the fact that there are psychotherapists who say that Hollywood marriages just have a hard time lasting because you've got so many little factors that come between the two of you that are constantly pulling you away from the core of emotional gravity that brings you together, right? Like one example he gives is Tom Cruise and how he was on Oprah dancing on the couch over Katie Holmes, and then a few years later, he's in Iceland doing a shoot, and they serve him divorce papers in Iceland, just a few years later. And you see this constantly where these people that have this undying affection for each other, a few years later, they're off to divorce court, and it's sad to see. But and what's also true is that it does tend to happen more when you've got just so many distractions. For example, I wouldn't be surprised if there was a lot of adultery going on in this marriage. I don't know who's committing the most, but we could probably guess who it might be.
I don't want to speculate on
well, no, but Chris,
but they are.
Chris made jokes about that too, right?
Right, I understand why you would say that. I'm sure some of the factors that are big. You said there is a lot of temptation. We don't know how far people went if they were able to fight temptation, but there's a temptation to cheat. There's also, I think, the biggest thing is that you're separated a lot when you're in a Hollywood marriage because the pure nature of your career is to travel. So, like you said, Tom Cruise was in Iceland. Who knows where Katie Holmes was at that time? So that's always a challenge. And then you have a lot of people around you. When you have a regular marriage, they say keep outsiders out of your business. When you're in Hollywood, the challenge is that outsiders kind of run your life. You have a publicist who's doing your schedule. You have an assistant who's handling your day-to-day. You have a manager who's doing long-term thinking with your career. And all of these people are impacting your intimate time with your life partner. So it is really challenging.
Well, yeah. I mean, I agree. I mean, I think that it's.
Well, it's like it's the cheating.
No. It's no. Actually, I'm not going to say it is the cheating. I'm going to say that. Well, the cheating may cause the divorce, but I really think that sometimes it's interesting that if you go back 50 years, you had a lot of cheating. You had even the Bill Cosby type craziness in a lot of marriages.
Cheating does not cause divorce.
Well,
I don't.
You don't think so, really?
No, it's the lack of loyalty, right? Because people, specifically women, and this is sad to say, have been trained to expect some level of infidelity at some point, right? But it's that you have to be respectful for your wife, to your wife, and you have to put your wife first. And I'm not saying that cheating is okay. What I'm saying is that in society, we give this message that women are able to be faithful because we're stronger, we're more virtuous, and we understand that men will succumb to temptation. I think what happens in a lot of marriages is that men become people, partners, because I don't want to just put on men, when people no longer put their partner first and no longer make them feel special, like they're a priority, enough to maybe even hide when you're doing something that you're not supposed to be doing, that becomes the major issue. When you're dealing with any guy, Joe Schmo to Chris Rock, women are throwing coochie at him all the time. He always has to make a choice at the gas station, at work, when he's at a football game, a basketball game. You can have $5 or $5 million. There's scandalous people everywhere. It's about making your partner feel like they're number one.
Well, I would say that, if you go back to the whole, what happened, what might have happened, in the marriage that made things interesting. I don't know if people remember. There was a woman that did file a paternity suit against Chris, and they signed a confidentiality agreement about what allegedly happened back in 1998. And it turned out that she was saying that that this baby she had was his, and he took a DNA test, and I think from what I understand, he wasn't the father,
Mm-hmm.
but the fact that there was money that exchanged hands and that there was this confidentiality thing going on, it does say that there was probably some interesting stuff going on in the marriage, right? But I think that but even putting that aside, not judging Chris or judging his wife, I think that I think that one of the sad realities is that when you get married, there is kind of this sort of very disciplined commitment that has to be made to really spend time with each other. In fact, the psychotherapist in the article on Financial Juneteenth that people can read, he basically said, look, women in marriages where they get to talk to their husbands continuously for 30 minutes a day, uninterrupted, are happier than women who do not get to do that. Right,
I absolutely agree.
that communication is critically important. But what's also true is that I think we've seen it time and time again, a billion times, that
Mm-hmm.
these celebrity marriages and stuff like that, where you've got the fame and the money and the craziness. Those marriages are just harder to maintain, and I don't know what the answer is exactly. Right? I mean, people are always going to fall in love and give it a try. But what's interesting
Yeah.
to me is that out of all these people who give it a million people give it a try, at least half a million of those people are headed to divorce court within 3 or 4 years. So I don't know what the answer to that is. What do you think, Tia?
Well, I think we have to focus on the other half that get it right. And I totally agree with the therapist in the article that you're talking about. I actually have an article in the upcoming issue of Ebony about love rituals. And the only way to keep your marriage strong is to do daily, weekly, and annual love rituals. Some of those rituals are, like in your article, communicating daily, making sure you have uninterrupted time to keep that connection strong. Weekly, you need to go out on dates and you need to have sex. One of the biggest things people say in long-term relationships is that you stopped having that physical intimacy, and that does take a toll on you over time. And then yearly, you need to do things like go on vacations together, celebrate the holidays, celebrate Valentine's Day. And it shouldn't just be the guy doting on the woman. It needs to go back and forth. That's the only way to keep the love strong. You have to stay committed to being in a relationship with each other, not just functioning as co-parents or roommates.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, I like what you said about the fact that the doting shouldn't go in one direction.
That's right.
I literally remember hearing a woman say once that it was a friend of mine a while back. Maybe we were both 30, and I remember her saying something like, it's not my job to feed a guy's ego and to
Yeah, it is.
say good things to himself. And I said, well, but you expect him to make you feel beautiful. Why wouldn't you want to make him feel good or strong, or what I mean, good about himself in whatever way that is, whatever way matters for him? I don't understand that. So you expect him to sit back and drop all these compliments on you and tell you how wonderful you are, but yet he's supposed to just figure out how wonderful he is without needing any affirmation from the woman he loves. And I just think that that's a little bit silly and unrealistic. I would just say this, definitely at the bottom line, as a bottom line here, if you're not ready to do a lot of really hard work on a day-to-day basis, don't get married. If you're not prepared to be patient, extremely patient with shortcomings or issues that your partner may have, then don't get married. You're going to have to really fight through a lot of things that you don't anticipate, in
Absolutely.
order for that marriage to work. But for some reason we still have this highly romanticized view of marriage. Like, we don't really think, and this sums it up. I heard a woman I went to college with say it like this, and it was a simple statement, but it made sense. She said, I asked her once. I said, "Well, you cheated on." We were really good friends. So she told me that she, had some stuff going on. And I said, so you were unfaithful? Why did you do that? Was he a bad husband? And she said, no. I said, he didn't abuse you or anything? She said, no. I said, did he cheat on you? She said, no. And I said, well, why'd you do that? She said, well, because I just wanted to have sex with somebody else. And she said, and when I got married in my 20s, I didn't realize how long forever really was.
Forever, ever,
Right,
forever.
right. She literally had said, she literally just said, I just really, I think that I romantically I was excited about getting married because that's what girls do in the South, and I didn't understand. Being together with someone forever sounds great when you do it, but when you're actually in it, you're like, wait, this isn't gonna end. This isn't gonna
And that's
change.
why I said fidelity, as beautiful as it is, isn't really the issue. It's really about, are you still going to be loyal to your husband or wife? And I know people have a really hard time separating the sexual aspect from the other stuff. And this is not to say that you should repeatedly be cheating on your spouse. But I'm just saying at times something like that may happen because it is a challenge and people are individuals and they're working things out for themselves.
Right on. Well, I don't have anything else to say. I just say that it's gonna be interesting to see how this 70 million gets chopped up. It's gonna be an expensive divorce. Um, if it sounds to me like, given that they filed divorce several times before, or
Right.
at least once before, I want to say it was maybe even twice. It says that these issues have been around for a long time. And in fact, I remember back in '05, speaking to Stone Phillips, Chris Rock actually said he compared being married to shooting himself in the head. And so he was joking, but the fact that he made that joke just a few months before he filed for divorce.
He's going through a hard time, which is understandable. I think that when people are really ready to move forward, the money isn't as big of an issue as you think. There's some things legally that you're just obligated to do. So if you've been with someone for 20 years during the height of your earnings, you're going to have to do a pretty equitable split, especially if that person isn't earning their own income and they have custody of the children, or even if you have joint custody. So it just really depends on how important being happy is to both parties, because the money, when you're splitting 30 $70 million, you living on 35 or $20 million isn't so bad.
Well, yeah, let's just hope that Chris doesn't have a whole bunch of bad financial habits or a
Yeah.
bunch of debt or something
And,
like
and I have to
that.
say this, I interviewed Chris recently for Top 5, and one of the things that he said is that he made a habit of living below his means because he understands how cyclical the industry can be. And he's like, how many people are famous forever? He was like, I've been famous, for this amount of years. And he's like, some people aren't famous for 2 or 3 years. So, I'm sure money won't be an issue in that way for them. But you hope that they're responsible enough to put the kids first and move forward and get to their happy.
And I think that that's interesting. And I know I plan on not saying anything else, but I should say this. Chris definitely is sort of head and shoulders above everyone else in the sense
Absolutely.
that he has that Morgan Freeman ability, if you will, to be around for another 30 years, right? Because he's got this kind of intelligence and this charisma that people respect, but then also he really gets on the cutting edge in terms of taking on these sorts of issues that a lot of people won't talk about, right?
Yeah.
Like the fact that he just wrote an essay, from what I understand, about being black in Hollywood and how it's a white industry, and if you're
Talks about that a lot. Yeah.
yeah,
So
right, and I think
he's
that's
a very real guy in that way, and I respect that as well.
yes,
As a person who gets to do a lot of red carpets, I always appreciate. A lot of times I'm one of the only reporters of color in a room, and there are different ways that different celebrities handle that when they're celebrities of color. And I can say Chris Rock, Don Cheadle, Denzel Washington have been some of my favorite because they kind of give you the nod to make sure you can get in
Yep.
when they see. So I appreciate they understand that, we need to make space for all of the outlets because sometimes we get pushed out.
Yeah,
So they definitely understand that they're different identities, and I appreciate that.
and it is interesting that they, I remember Chris saying that if you're a black man with a goatee and some bass in your voice, you can forget it in Hollywood.
Yeah.
And you think about Don Cheadle, Denzel, Chris Rock.
Yeah.
These are black men with goatees with bass in their voice. I mean, they have this authenticity about their blackness. I think you can even throw Jamie Foxx in there a little bit too.
Yeah, and I'm just talking about people who I've had an opportunity to do one-on-one with. I'm sure there are a lot of guys who do great things, but those moments stand out to me in my career because of not only their level of celebrity, but also the subtleties of how they navigate race and they understand, how, just how things move. And I appreciated that. So I'm, definitely not trying to slight anyone else.
No, 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 no,
Yeah.
no. I was throwing Jamie Foxx in there just because, from what I, from the, the space that I've been in, I've seen some things that I don't even know Jamie, but I know enough people to know him that tell me that, that he's got this authenticity as well. And I think we have to appreciate that. I think that when we see black male actors, especially, or black females as well, that really embrace their blackness and the struggle that comes with that.
Right,
I think we have to support them in every way we can. And for example, I went to see Annie, and I honestly didn't expect Annie to even be a good movie, but but I knew Will Smith and Jamie Foxx and Jay-Z were all connected, so I said, okay, I'm gonna support this, and it turned out to be one of the best movies I've seen in a while. I mean, the movie was so good, and and I think that we have to do that. We have to support these guys, and because believe me, when you speak up like that, when you speak up the way Chris Rock has, there's going to be some backlash.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you speaking of the people, I mean, we're just going on so many different tangents
I know.
of people supporting movies. I saw this film Beyond the Lights a few weeks ago, and I found out that Amari Stoudemire, one NBA player, was one of the producers. So I really give hats off to men and women who are making big bank and using their money to tell more of our stories. And so that's one of the things that I can definitely appreciate about a Will Smith, about a Noari, about a Chris Rock. So, in sum, best of luck to Chris and Malaak Compton-Rock. We want them to be happily ever after. Sometimes being separate but equal is the best way to get to that place.
Separate but equal. So
that's right.
This is like a Supreme Court decision, Brown versus.
So we'd love to hear you guys' thoughts on Chris's split and what's next for the couple. Thank you for listening.
Bye bye.